The Senate will come to order. I ask everyone present to please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In the absence of clergy, let us bow our heads in a moment of silent reflection or prayer. Reading of the Journal.
In Senate, Tuesday, April 18, 2023, the Senate met pursuant to adjournment. The Journal of Monday, April 17, 2023 was read and approved, and a motion to Senate adjourned.
Without objection, the Journal stands approved as read. Presentation of petitions. Messages from the Assembly. The Secretary will read.
Senator Claire moves to discharge from the Committee on Higher Education. Assembly Bill number 1395C is substituted for the identical Senate Bill 1213B, third reading count of 590. Senator Mayer moves to discharge from the Committee on Investigation and Government Operations. Assembly Bill number 5369 is substituted for the identical Senate Bill 5622, third reading count of 591.
So ordered. Messages from the Governor, reports of standing committees, reports of select committees, communications and reports from state officers. Motions and resolutions. Senator Gianaris.
Good afternoon, Madam President. On behalf of Senator Hoylman Siegel, on page 18, I offer the following amendments to Calendar 410, Senate Print 3266, and ask that said bill retain its place on the third reading calendar.
The amendment is received and the bill will retain its place in the third reading calendar. Senator Gianaris.
There will be an immediate meeting of the Judiciary Committee in room 332.
There will be an immediate meeting of the Judiciary Committee in room 332.
The Senate stands at ease.
The Senate will stand at ease. The Senate will return to order. Senator Gianaris.
Madam President, there's a report of the Judiciary Committee at the desk. Please take that up and recognize Senator Hoylman Siegel.
The Secretary will read.
Senator Hoylman Siegel from the Committee on Judiciary reports the following nomination. As an Associate Justice of the Court of Appeals, Caitlin J. Halligan.
Senator Hoylman Siegel on the nomination.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to move the nomination of Caitlin Halligan as an Associate Judge of the New York State Court of Appeals. I've known Ms. Halligan and her family for over 25 years, and I'm proud to call her a constituent of the 47th Senate District. First, I want to extend my sympathies to Caitlin and her husband, Mark, and their family, as recently Mark's mother has passed away. But about Caitlin, she began her undergraduate education at Princeton and then went to Georgetown Law Center, where she graduated magna cum laude. And she began her legal career in Washington, D.C., clerking for a judge on the D.C. Court of Appeals, which is known as the second most important court in the United States. But she didn't stop there. She clerked for the United States Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer and quickly found her way to New York City after an extremely short stint in private practice, dedicated over a decade of her career to the service of her fellow New Yorkers. Ms. Halligan has always been on the cutting edge of the law. I want to read briefly, Madam President, from the transcript when Ms. Halligan was being considered for the D.C. Circuit back in 2011. Senator Schumer, who supported her nomination along with Senator Gillibrand, says, "I always worry about judges who have had no practical experience and seek to impose from on high some decisions that just do not work in the real world. We are not going to find that with Ms. Halligan." I concur with Senator Schumer. When she first joined the Attorney General's office, she was the first chief of the new Internet Bureau, an office that has grown and plays an increasingly vital part in the Attorney General's consumer protection portfolio today. She quickly rose through the ranks, becoming the state's Solicitor General in 2001, where she fought to hold gun manufacturers liable for the devastation they propagate on our communities, and successfully sued the Bush EPA to regulate the greenhouse gas emissions that are driving catastrophic climate change. Later, she joined the Manhattan District's Attorney's Office, not as a prosecutor, but as the general counsel, where she managed that 1,000-plus office and she led the DA's efforts to review wrongful convictions and begin to remedy the injustices of mass incarceration policies. In 2010, President Barack Obama nominated Ms. Halligan for a seat on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. Despite her stellar qualifications and favorable report from the Senate Judiciary Committee, Senate Republicans shamefully filibustered her nomination for 3 years. They filibustered her for one reason, and one reason only, Madam President: the NRA. The NRA vigorously opposed Ms. Halligan's nomination, something that I would consider to be a badge of honor for Ms. Halligan, due to her work to combat gun violence and hold gun manufacturers accountable. Well, I'm happy to say that Washington, D.C.'s loss is New York State's gain. While Ms. Halligan moved into private practice, she maintained a robust pro bono portfolio, including litigation to continue the fight against gun violence, protect rent-stabilized tenants, and win equal pay for our back-to-back World Cup winning U.S. women's national soccer team. She always kept her eye on returning to full-time public service, however, and she has been identified by the Commission on Judicial Nominations shortlist for multiple vacancies on the Court of Appeals throughout the years. In fact, she may have the distinction of being the only candidate who's actually been endorsed by the New York Times for a seat on the New York State Court of Appeals. At one point in 2015, Ms. Halligan was endorsed by the Times, but she was also being considered simultaneously for a seat on the United States Supreme Court. I'm grateful that this time Governor Hochul seized the opportunity to nominate Ms. Halligan and put her talents to work for New Yorkers. Over the course of her career, Ms. Halligan has argued 6 cases before the United States Supreme Court, served as a counsel of record for a party or amicus curiae in over 50 cases before that court, and argued dozens of cases, before the New York Court of Appeals. So many cases she's actually lost count. Colleagues on both sides of the aisle were clearly impressed with her intellect and experience during yesterday's 3-hour Judiciary Committee hearing. Caitlin Halligan will make a fantastic Court of Appeals judge. She will be an inspiration for young lawyers, particularly women, across the state, and I'm sure the court can become the best appellate court in the nation with her on the bench. When the time comes, Madam President, I will be voting aye, and I encourage my colleagues to do the same. I move the nomination of Caitlin Halligan to the floor, Madam President, and ask you to recognize any senator who wishes to be heard on the nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hoylman Siegel. Senator Palumbo on the nomination.
Thank you, Madam President. And I rise with respect to this nomination, not to necessarily even speak about the nominee. I'm here to just make kind of a general comment on behalf of my conference, because Caitlin Halligan certainly is probably the most experienced appellate attorney we have possibly seen as a nominee for the Court of Appeals, and has had extensive experience, has been nominated for federal judgeships as well, and Senator Hoylman Siegel went through her qualifications, which certainly exist. So this really has nothing to do with the nominee. I just want to speak generally about the process and how we have arrived here, because I think it's appropriate for us to just comment about what advice and consent really is. It's the governor's prerogative to appoint individuals to the Court of Appeals, and the Senate provides advice and consent, and it's been quite a long road to get here. I'm pleased to see that this nominee was treated with the dignity and respect that Court of Appeals nominees deserve. Vigorous debate on either side, and a vote. So I'm glad to see that this nominee was not treated like Hector LaSalle as a nomination, and as a nominee. And my concern also is that this is being done during a budget. This seems to be a bit of a quid pro quo here, and I think that is offensive to the process of nominating judges. So I just had to stand, and really on behalf of our conference, just to say that this is not how to do this. And I'm pretty saddened by the way that this has gone. I'm glad to see that we're finally here, filling the seven judges of the Court of Appeals seats, because that's what's best for New Yorkers. and going forward is what's best for New Yorkers. I just hope that in the future, we don't have another debacle like we've seen over these past few months when it comes to an area that should be immune from politics. Unfortunately, at this go-around, it wasn't. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Ryan on the nomination.
Thank you, Madam President. Before I talk about favorability of Ms. Halligan, I just have to respond to this idea that somehow bringing a judge's confirmation up during budget is somehow improper. If this were a court of law, which I know my learned colleague has been in, the judge would say that's a naked, bald allegation without one fact or proof behind it. So we would hope we would conduct ourselves in a level where we don't make naked, bald allegations with no proof behind them. But let's hope for positivity in the future. So I want to start by thanking Ms. Halligan for her thoughtful responses to everyone's questions yesterday. You can tell by the responses that she spent time as a teacher. She was able to break the law down into its very small pieces and help to build in understanding. The hearings themselves that we've been conducting have been terrific, and I would thank my colleague, the chair of the Judiciary Committee, Senator Hoylman Segal, for conducting those, and I would thank Governor Hochul for bringing us such a strong candidate. We never make appointments to our state's judiciary lightly. I was happy to see the short list, and Ms. Halligan was on this short list, but you could look at her resume and think she had essentially 4 or 3 full careers. A judicial clerk that sometimes people would keep for a lifetime, a big firm attorney, a teacher at esteemed universities like Georgetown and Columbia, and then a small firm pro bono lawyer doing terrific impact litigation cases. Each of those parts of her career would have been a full career for a lot of lawyers. So I would have to say it's a super, super impressive resume, one that includes a lot of appellate work, arguing in front of the United States Supreme Court, arguing in front of Court of Appeals. It's very, very complete resume. It's a resume you don't see very often. So I do applaud Ms. Halligan for her life's work. During that time, has represented a broad range of clients, but I think that sort of soup to nuts experience will really serve her well on the Court of Appeals, but it will also serve the Court of Appeals well. And I think that is what this Court of Appeals needs. But it also gives me confidence that each and every matter that comes in front of the court, that she will take a complete look at, and she will be able to set aside personal biases and beliefs and to concentrate on the rule of law. So I'm happy today to stand in favor of this nomination, and I look forward to, after this vote, to calling Ms. Halligan Judge Halligan. So thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Ryan. The question is on the nomination. Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to the nomination of Caitlin J. Halligan as an Associate Justice of the Court of Appeals, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Ashby, Borrello, Brisport, Griffo, Helming, Murray, Oberacker, Ort, Steck, Tedisco, Walczyk, and Senator White. Ayes 47, nays 12.
The nominee, Caitlin Halligan, is confirmed as Associate Judge of the Court of Appeal. Senator Gianaris.
Thank you, Madam President. It's nice to have a full Court of Appeals again. Can we please take up the reading of the calendar?
The Secretary will read.
Calendar number 261, Senate Print 204 by Senator Clear, an act to amend the correction law.
The bill is going to be laid aside. No?
No, it's the second clear bill. I'm so sorry. No, it's the second clear.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act to take effect on the 180th day of the shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the result.
Ayes 59.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 268, Senate Print 1817 by Senator Stavisky, an act to amend the vehicle and traffic law.
Read the last section. The bill is laid aside for the day.
Calendar number 364, Senate Print 3280 by Senator Gurnardez, concurrent resolution of the Senate and Assembly proposing an amendment to Section 6 of Article 5 of the Constitution.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
I called the bill. What'd you call it? Okay, the bill is passed.
Calendar number 514, Senate Print 1818A by Senator Stavisky, an act to amend the education law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 534, Senate Print 3366 by Senator Harkam, an act providing that a student enrolled in an individualized education program during certain school years may continue to receive educational services.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Senator Weber to explain his vote.
I'd like to thank Senator Harkam for bringing this very important legislation forward. We've heard from a lot of constituents within my district about the need for this legislation, so I was proud to jump on as a co-sponsor, and I'm proud to vote aye today for this. So thank you very much.
Senator Weber to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 568, Senate Print 3105 by Senator Mannion, an act relating to assessing the staffing and other issues causing the continued displacement of individuals with developmental disabilities.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 580, Senate Print 3021 by Senator Comrie, an act to amend the energy law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 584, Senate Print 1608 by Senator Serrano, an act to amend the Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation Law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
To explain your vote.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to explain my vote. This legislation addresses an important nexus of issues. One, it supports our farmers by creating new markets for them to sell their products. And what a better location to connect our communities with fresh foods in our state and local parks. Another nexus point with Senator Serrano's bill is that this bill addresses the predominance of food deserts in rural districts like mine to ensure that folks who live in small towns and hamlets and underserved communities can access fresh and healthy food. And finally, by providing farmers with new local markets, this legislation also helps to make sure that more of the food we produce here in New York soil is eaten by New York families. I thank Senator Serrano for bringing forth this legislation, and I will be voting aye, and I encourage my colleagues to do the same.
Senator Webb to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 590, Assembly number 1395C by Assemblymember Epstein, an act to amend the education law.
The bill is laid aside.
Calendar number 591, Assembly number 5369 by Assemblymember Parlin, an act to amend the tax law.
There's a home rule message at the desk. Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Janoris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White. In relation to calendar 591, those senators voted in the negative are senators. Okay. Senators Canzoneri, Fitzpatrick, Harkam, Hinchy, Lanza, Martinez, Matera, Murray, Oberecker, Palumbo, Rhodes, Skoufis, Tedisco, Webb, and White. Also Senator Mannion. Ayes 44, nays 15.
The bill is passed. Senator Gianaris, that completes the reading of today's calendar.
Can we move on to the controversial calendar, please?
The secretary will ring the bell. The secretary will read.
Calendar number 590, Assembly number 1395C by Assemblymember Epstein, an act to amend the education law.
Senator Helming, why do you rise?
Thank you, Madam President. I rise. I have a few questions for the sponsor. The sponsor will yield.
Senator Clear, do you yield? The senator yields.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Clear. After reading this legislation, I had a few questions as a state senator, but also some concerns around safety as both a mother and a grandmother. I was trying to figure out, what is driving the need for this legislation. After reviewing several of the SUNY and CUNY school websites, it was very clear that SUNY and CUNY already make comprehensive quality health care and health education available to all of their students. So I read that, and again, I started wondering, why do we need this when they're already offering these services? So I made a few calls to a couple of the SUNY schools, and the people that I spoke with assured me that if a student comes to them in need and is looking for referrals or assistance, that they are currently providing that service. So I'm wondering, again, has SUNY or CUNY reached out? Are they looking for clarification? Is that what's driving the need for this bill?
What's driving the need? In the last 2 years, young women have contacted my office to state that their particular college or university does not offer medication abortion prescription drugs, and this is of great concern to them. And I've consulted SUNY on this throughout this process, and they are supportive of the bill.
Thank you. Through you, Madam President, if the sponsor will continue to yield.
Senator Clear, do you yield? The senator yields.
Senator Clear, are you aware of any data or any studies that show that students enrolled at SUNY and CUNY schools are currently struggling to access medication abortion drugs?
I do not have that data, but this bill is going to require reporting within the next couple years to see if there's any adjustments that need to be made, but I'm going on the request of the young women that have come to us.
Through you, Madam President, if the sponsor will continue to yield,
Senator Clear, do you yield?
I yield.
Senator yields.
would it make more sense to do the study up front to determine if there's really a need for this? And then if there is, bring back the legislation?
I think women coming to me saying that they need it is grounds for us to provide this for them.
Madam President, if the sponsor will continue to yield.
Senator Clear, do you yield? Yes, Senator yields.
Senator Clear, can you explain to me who can prescribe the medication abortion pills? Is it just a doctor or who can prescribe?
It's a doctor or anyone in the scope of practice, a nurse practitioner.
Through you, Madam President.
Do you yield, Senator Clear? Yes, Senator yields.
Senator Clear, one of the questions that's been asked of me is can a pharmacist dispense without a doctor's order?
No.
Through you,
Through
Madam
you, Madam
President.
President, no. I'm sorry. Yes.
Do you yield?
No to the question, yes, I continue.
Oh, Senator yields. It's one question at a time.
Sorry.
Thank you. Senator Clear, does this legislation address safeguards for the student? For instance, before a prescription for medication abortion is issued to a student, will a medical history be taken to determine if there are any contraindications that would put the student's health or life at risk? I know on the Planned Parenthood website, they mention things like inherited bleeding disorders, heart or kidney disease, or if the woman still has an IUD in place, it could be dangerous.
Yeah, they will be speaking to a doctor, and a doctor would be doing that kind of preliminary questioning.
Through you, Madam President.
Are you asking
So,
Senator to
Will
yield?
the senator yield for?
Senator Clear, do you continue to yield? Senator yields.
So I understand that you're saying that the student will consult with a doctor. Can you tell me if that consultation will include a physical examination or a sonogram?
I don't know if I can tell you that. That would be something that the patient would discuss with the doctor. That would be something that will be determined by the doctor.
Thank you. Through you, Madam President, if the sponsor will continue to yield.
Do you continue to yield? Yes, the senator yields.
I guess I'm still trying to figure this out. I read something about telehealth services that was either in the bill or in the sponsor's justification, and my concern is that the FDA has approved medical abortion pills for use up to 10 weeks. And I'm just wondering, without a physical exam or without a sonogram, how you conclude, unless the student has a definitive answer on how far along they are.
Again, through you, Madam President, the individual is consulting with a doctor. I think it's standard medical practice to find out how far along anyone is that is pregnant.
Through you, Madam President, the sponsor will continue to yield.
Continue to yield? The senator yields.
Is there anything that's built into this legislation requiring care and support for the student after they take the medication?
It's my understanding providers will normally take care of that and they will schedule follow-ups with their patients.
Through you, Madam President, the sponsor will continue to yield.
Yes.
So in that instance where the provider is actually a SUNY or CUNY employee, you're saying they will do follow-up with the student. One of the things that I read on the Planned Parenthood website that had me concerned is that, well, let me backtrack for a moment. We all know that young women attending college, they're really often experiencing true independence for the first time in their lives. They're away from their family, they're away from their support systems. And one of the things, again, according to the Planned Parenthood website, is that serious long-term emotional problems are more likely to happen to women who don't have support around their decision to end their pregnancy. And that's why I'm asking the question and want to make sure that there are going to be safeguards and support systems built in to make sure that these women are okay.
President, that's going to be a continued conversation between the patient and their doctor in terms of their health afterwards, or their entire health.
Through you, Madam President, the sponsor will continue to yield.
Yes.
Continue to yield. Senator yields.
One final question. The way I read the bill and interpreted it is that the bill applies to all SUNY and CUNY students. And it got me to wondering, so I heard from many parents of P-TECH students during this whole mandated vaccine requirement that if you're in a P-TECH program that's associated with the college, they had to be vaccinated. So I'm wondering, are high school students who are enrolled in these local SUNY schools, like for instance through the P-TECH programs, will they have the same access?
Through you, Madam President, no, this is only for college students.
Through you, Madam President, how are college students defined? Does this bill define college students?
So this is offered to students who are enrolled on campus, not attending somewhere else and visiting or in a program, but all students enrolled on campus.
Through you, Madam President, I would, Senator Claire, so you're saying those P-TECH students aren't considered enrolled in the college, or like high school students who pay a fee to participate, take college courses and stuff, they're not considered students?
These purposes is my understanding.
Through you, Madam President, is that somewhere in this legislation?
Yes,
Senator
I
Claire?
do.
The senator yields. Can you repeat your question, Senator Helming?
It's my understanding that no one interpreting this bill would apply this to high school students.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Senator Claire. Appreciate it. Thank you.
To explain it. Are there any other senators wishing to be heard? Seeing and hearing none, debate is closed. The secretary will ring the bell. Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect August 1st, 2023.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Senator Webb to explain her vote.
Madam President, I would like to thank Senator Claire for introducing this important piece of legislation. I want to clarify a couple of things that I heard. As we know, reproductive care and access to it is a very important issue that we have been actively working in addressing here in New York. And so as someone who worked as an educator at SUNY and a proud alum, I thought it would be important to lift up my own experience in working with students at SUNY as it pertains to accessing health care. And so in the work that I did at Binghamton University, in connecting students with healthcare services, I would share that a number of our students at SUNY and, dare I say, CUNY, have limited options at times, especially for our low to moderate income students who are enrolled at our public institutions, such as SUNY and CUNY. And so there are healthcare services available on our campuses that do provide, and especially in districts like mine, for a number of students that if those services didn't exist, they wouldn't have access to adequate care. And so with this particular legislation and what it's looking to do, it's very simple. It's looking to expand access to reproductive care. The questions around counseling, and other services, our SUNY and CUNY campuses also provide counseling services, and I would be remiss if I didn't give a nod to our mental health chair, Senator Brooke, who has been advocating for quite a while to expand access to mental health services, and our SUNY and CUNY campuses are no exception to that. As the chair of women's issues, we know how important it is that we have to address these challenges as it pertains to access to reproductive care, because it is health care, and we also know that barriers exist. And we also know that the stakes are very high. In fact, today, the Supreme Court has ordered a temporary stay until Friday as we continue to have this public discourse on a FDA already approved 20-year plus drug, mifepristone, which has been proven to be safe and effective as a method for addressing abortion. We also have been working diligently as a state to protect and increase access to this important care. And although we have laws here in New York that protect a woman's right to choose, it is still the case that for so many living in underinvested communities, that the lack to safe and reliable reproductive care remains a barrier to true reproductive justice. Now, I as a representative have 6 major institutions of higher education in my district, and I understand that our colleges and universities play a major role in providing care. And as I already mentioned, these institutions do provide access. And so my closing sentiments is simply this: Madam President, we must continue to stand up against attempts by other states to strip people of their rights to safe and accessible abortion care, and we must continue to protect a woman's right to make decisions over her own body, and that we must continue to remain vigilant in our fight to defend these rights. I proudly vote aye for this legislation. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Webb to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Krueger to explain her vote.
Thank you, Madam President. I also rise to congratulate Senator Claire for bringing this bill to us today and strongly support a yes vote. I appreciate very much my colleague, the chair of the Women's Committee, from addressing many of the things I wanted to say. I will just again highlight, it is far more dangerous to actually continue an unwanted pregnancy from a health perspective or a mental health perspective than to make the decision to have a medicine-driven abortion provided under the prescription of people who are recognized healthcare providers within their scope of practice providing healthcare. Most of these healthcare providers get involved in far riskier health issues on behalf of students, and it is crucial, I think, particularly in some SUNY campuses that may be significant distances from urban areas that may have more access, that we make sure these students have the same access as all women should have throughout the state. And again, it takes no leaps, either in what the law of this land is or what the FDA and medical professionals have recognized. In fact, the medicines used for these kinds of procedures have been proven by the FDA to be safer than the drugs we buy over the counter for headaches and cramps in our local pharmacy. So I strongly support this bill, and I appreciate the senator from my own island of Manhattan for carrying this important bill on behalf of all young women in the state of New York. Thank you.
Senator Krueger to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Gonzalez to explain her vote.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank Senator Claire so much for her leadership on this issue. As a woman, as a recent college graduate, this is the type of essential care that all students need. And at a time where we're seeing what happened with Texas undermining our right to a medication abortion and the attempts across the country to undermine all people's right to an abortion, this is an essential moment for New York. We need to send a clear message that in New York, we want to provide abortion without apology and on demand. That when other parts of the country are at the will of the politics of fear and misinformation and want to tell people and women what to do with their bodies, that in New York, we do things differently. So this bill is a really important moment and step in a larger fight for access. And in addition to knowing that college students seek abortion access at higher rates, and that we have a lot of an influx of out-of-state folks coming to New York to exercise their right to an abortion, this is actually a bill that not only helps college students, but it helps all New Yorkers, because it takes some of the pressure off from the clinics that are now seeing that influx, that are now seeing that increase. So it's in all of our best interest to support this bill, and I will absolutely and enthusiastically be voting yes on this bill. Thank you.
Senator Gonzalez to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Kennedy to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I want to start by congratulating Senator Clear for her leadership, for her vision, for bringing this extremely important bill to the floor here today. I also want to recognize my colleagues, Senator Webb, Senator Krueger, for leading the charge in this very important space at this very important moment in our state's history and in our nation's history. But how did we get here? We got here because the Supreme Court of the United States reversed a decades-long ruling, Roe v. Wade, when those same justices stepped up and testified under oath before Congress that it was a precedent in the law of the land, and there was no need to worry. Nothing was going to happen. And so the first opportunity those Supreme Court justices of the United States had to reverse Roe, they did it. They lied to us. They lied to the people of this country. And they put women's lives in danger. And so what do we have now? We have states across the United States ruling against women, a war against women's rights, reversing decades-long legislation at the state level, a mishmash of laws where unquestionably women are going to die in this country because Roe v. Wade was reversed at the national level. So what does this lead us to do? Here in New York, we have to lead. We have to lead by example, and we have to lead by legislation, like Senator Clear's legislation today, that puts the health care of women in their own hands, particularly at the college level. And, women in college are old enough, they're smart enough to make decisions on behalf of their own bodies. Just ask them. Just listen. It's very clear to all of us that the law at the national level of Roe v. Wade being overturned was the wrong decision. It was a boneheaded decision, and it was a bald-faced lie by the Supreme Court of the United States. So New York State now needs to lead. This is one of many pieces of legislation that will help to show the rest of this country how to protect women, how to make sure that their decisions on behalf of themselves and their own bodies and health care provided to them is protected. And I'm looking forward to not only seeing this move forward to the governor's desk, but also other pieces of legislation that will prove New York State continues to lead in this space. I proudly vote aye.
Senator Kennedy to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Stavisky to explain her vote.
Thank you, Madam President. First, let me thank Senator Clear for introducing this very, very significant piece of legislation. It demonstrates our commitment to students, particularly students in public higher education, and it's part of what I hope will be a continuing investment in their futures. I think this goes beyond what we've talked about. I just sat through with my colleagues a total of about 6 hours of testimony by candidates for the Court of Appeals. And questions came up during those hearings about separation of powers. And here we have, I think, a perfect example where the FDA, and part of the executive branch of government, is being challenged by the judicial branch of government. And is this the first time, the first example, the first instance of trying to overturn an executive order? I hope not. I think the question goes way beyond whether this is safe, and the quote that I heard Senator Krueger was that these pills are safer than Tylenol. I think we have to consider the future of our young people today, and I proudly vote aye.
Senator Stavisky to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Clear to explain her vote.
Thank you very much, Madam President. There are nearly 700,000 students enrolled at SUNY and CUNY schools. Many of them count on on-campus health clinics for a wide range of needed care. In some areas of the state, the on-campus clinic may be the only health provider within miles for many students who commute only via public transportation, thus making it tremendously important that when a woman needs access to timely reproductive health care, that it be offered as directly accessible as possible. As has been mentioned already, the stakes can be very high for those who are seeking care and making choices about their bodies and about their future. This bill provides young women safe and closer access by requiring CUNY and SUNY to provide access to medication abortion to students on campus, either directly or where necessary and proper via referral. I thank my Assembly colleague, Harvey Epstein, for his exceptional work on this issue, as well as SUNY and CUNY leadership, who we consulted with, and young women leaders all over the state, particularly from the Reproductive Justice Collective. I thank my colleagues here today. I proudly vote aye and encourage everyone to please do the same. Thank you.
Senator Clear to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 590, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Ashby, Borrello, Canzoneri Fitzpatrick, Felder, Griffo, Helming, Lanza, Martinez. Martinez in the affirmative. Matera, Murray, Oberacker, Ort, Palumbo, Rhodes, Steck, Tedisco, Walzig, Weber, and White. Ayes 42, nays 18.
The bill is passed. Senator Gianaris, that completes the reading of the controversial calendar.
Is there any further business at the desk?
There is no further business at the desk.
Move to adjourn until tomorrow, Thursday, April 20th at 10 a.m.
On motion, the Senate stands adjourned until Thursday, April 20th at 10 a.m.